Hey, and welcome back, everyone. Today we've got some more Destiny for you, and we're going to be talking about the draft format, the sealed format, and we're going to unbox a draft set here for you, the Allies of Necessity draft set.
Yeah, the Allies of Necessity draft set. So if you watched the Obi-Wan Kenobi and General Grievous starter set unboxings, welcome back. And today doing something a little different. So if the draft and sealed formats are new to you, before unboxing the set, we can quickly discuss those so you have an idea of what they are before you see the cards, and that may affect your impressions of them. So do you want to start off with what the draft format is?
Yeah, so you can play with 2 players. You can play with more if you so desire. You can make it a multiplayer. What everyone's going to do is they're going to show up with a draft set of some variety, and then
and they all have to have the same draft set. So This is the most recent one. It's part of the Convergence Cycle, so this will likely be the one.
And you're also going to bring 6 sealed packs from that cycle.
Yeah, exactly. Sealed unopened packs you're going to show up with, and then all the players are going to gather around. Each player is going to open up their first 3 packs, set the dice in a pool in the middle, and then they're gonna look at their initial 15 cards, and each player is going to select one of those 15 cards, and it's going to be a secret selection. You're not going to show the other players, and you're just going to set that down and pass your hand to the person on the left.
Yeah, you're not gonna. If you take a character, you don't take the dice because that would give away what you take. So you take the dice at the end.
Yeah, at the end. And then so that's just gonna progress, and you're gonna continue passing cards each time you make a selection to the person on your left. So the cards are gonna cycle around. Eventually you're gonna get a hand that's gonna have 1 card in it. So you're gonna take that card. You're gonna just have to take it regardless of what it is, and then you're gonna crack open your next 3 sealed booster packs. So the second time around, you're gonna pass to the person on your right, just to change up the order a little bit, and that way, depending on maybe the person who was picking right before you was building a bit of a similar deck based on the cards available. So now they're being passed in a different direction, so you kind of might have first crack at those hands. Assuming
multiplayer.
Yes. If it was just 2 people going back and forth, that's a different scenario. But just something to keep that in check a little bit.
Yeah, so you're going to end up with 50 cards, 20 from the starter set, which is fixed, and 30, which you have drafted. You're then going to build a deck of 20 to 30 cards from that card pool you have made for yourself. You're going to play games. It recommends that you basically set up a tournament where you play one-on-one, keep track of who's winning. And then once you're done playing your games, you get to keep the cards that you drafted, bring them home to your collection.
Yeah, so if you have a group of friends who all enjoy the game, this might be a compelling format for you to play. It puts everyone on a pretty level playing field, regardless of if one person has a huge collection of cards and the other person doesn't. Everyone's on a level playing field in these draft games and sealed games. So that could be something of interest. And then, like Hal said, you are getting to take these cards home to your collection. So regardless of what you get in those packs, whether it's great or not, you're still going to be adding to your collection.
But what if I don't like drafting? Tell me about the sealed format.
Okay, fair enough. So you know what, drafting, maybe it doesn't sound great to you. You just you want to get the cards that are in your own packs. Maybe you're that type of person. The draft doesn't interest you all that much. You have another option here, and this comes with the rules for the sealed format. So the sealed format, actually a little bit simpler than the draft format. This time, each player is just going to show up again with their draft starters, so this being the cornerstone of these formats. And then for the sealed format, you're going to show up with 8 unopened booster packs. So essentially, you're just going to crack open those 8 packs, and you're going to build your deck with the contents of this sealed draft starter set and the contents of those 8 packs you've cracked. So That's really the only difference from the draft format. It's still going to follow the same deck building rules with the cards you do get from those packs.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, again, after you play, you're going to take those cards home. They're yours.
Yeah, they're your packs. You've cracked them, and you'll get to play. Well, potentially a tournament, maybe just with one of your friends. But regardless, you should get some fun games in with those as well, and then get to take home your cards.
Yeah, and the benefit is you're probably going to end up using some cards you might not otherwise be using, just because you're somewhat constrained by what you pull from the packs.
Yeah, and from what I've heard, like the games in this capacity are, at least from what I've heard, are quite fun. I've heard they're some of the best games you can play because everyone being on that level playing field, there's not going to be those extremely well-oiled decks, so you're going to get into those type of games of Destiny that you might see with slightly smaller collections, really kind of some fundamentals going on. So if that's something that you really enjoy about the game, I think this format will have a strong appeal for you.
All right, well, without further ado, let's see what comes in one of these.
Yeah, let's check it out. All right, so we're gonna crack open this Allies of Necessity draft set here. Just deal with this stubborn tape on the sides.
It's good to know no one else has gotten in there.
Yeah, no, that is what you want to see out of a new product. So no complaints on that front. Not too difficult of a box to open either.
Comes with the classic Destiny tray.
Yeah, like I noted in the General Grievous starter set unboxing, the tray, while it initially looks nice, found it to not actually be the best storage option. It is pretty bulky. I find it kind of clunky, and it's not the most economical use of space. I actually ended up throwing my dice into some Ziploc bags, but if you have a bit of a smaller collection, maybe the tray will be something of use to you.
Yeah, ideally the tray would be less deep insofar as here, but obviously that's happened to prevent the product from moving around in the box. So
yeah, and they're gonna have, I think, the rules in. Actually, I mean, that's not taking up much space. So yeah, there is some measure of extra space at the bottom there.
All right, let's get to it.
Yep. So I'll crack open this pack of cards if you want to begin. Actually, maybe we should go through the cards and then we can show the dice as those respective cards come up.
Yeah. Nice plastic cover if you are of a mind to keep the tray insert.
Yeah, it's a good covering. And the cards come in a nice classic FFG style shrink wrap here. And here are the cards. So, we're starting off the set.
Problem is the dice are actually held very firmly.
Yeah, I noticed that in I think the Obi-Wan video. I was really struggling to get them out.
There's the die.
Yeah, nice. There's Dooku, the Count.
So he's a Force card, blue card back there with the blue die.
Yeah, exactly. So having him in your deck, you're gonna be eligible to take those blue cards in your deck, the Force cards. So let's have a look at his stat line. Just right off the bat, 9 health. And then I think the other things of note are 11 and 13. So if really discussing more of the draft format here, actually something we didn't mention earlier is all these cards are eligible in all the formats. We mentioned adding them to your collection, and yeah, you can play with them in the Trilogy, Infinite, and Standard play. So in the draft set, this 11 is probably going to be the more important number here, as you're not going to be able to have an Elite Dooku, as there is only one copy of this card in the draft set.
Unless you get some sort of amazing pull from your 6 packs.
But Dooku isn't actually going to be in those packs, so yeah, I think you're going to be confined to just the one. So let's see what he's bringing to the table here.
So he's got double 2 melee damage on his die,
which is just my initial impression is that's pretty reasonable.
Yeah, in general, the base damage is better than the modifier damage, the plus because it doesn't require some other die in your die pool that you've rolled to be there.
Yeah, we've seen already with the commando droids that sometimes you roll that 2 modifier side and it's just not even really.
You've got to start re-rolling other die. He's got a focus, which is good. You're probably going to want to be setting that to the 2 melee damage side, but
potentially another one of your characters as well. Actually, no, because the focus you'd be resolving to change one of your other dice.
Oh, you're correct. Yeah, you're correct. Because there is not the elite version there.
Yeah. If this is standard play, that is definitely an option.
You've got a discard, 1 discard from your opponent.
Yeah, which is good. Actually, one thing that even just jumps out to me right away is that none of his dice have a resource cost to them, which is nice.
Yeah. It also means he doesn't have a. None of these die sides is great, but the flip side of that is that you aren't gonna roll a die you can't use because you've spent your resources.
Yeah, because like there are those times that a potentially great roll is of actually no use to you if you're not able to find another way to get a resource. You're already out. Seems to be a fairly just consistent character across the board,
which is what you would want in a draft starter set. And then his last non-blank side is just a resource.
Yeah, so he has a pretty nice spread of icons on his dice, and then he has the traits. He's a character, a leader, and a Sith. So the Sith and leader traits are certainly relevant.
Yeah, and he's got a power action. Play a blue card from your hand, paying its cost. Then force an opponent to discard a card from their hand.
Okay.
So you're basically doubling the action economy because you're getting 2 actions for 1. Really.
Yeah, really the second action being a discard from them. So it's essentially, you get to play and then you're also discarding. So, and I like that power action is something you're using early in your turn, because early in your turn you're probably going to be like, maybe playing down an attachment on one of your characters, like, or support or something, and you want to get that out so you can get the dice out before you activate the character, and now you're getting a discard from their hand right at the beginning, which really might disrupt their plans, I think.
Yeah. Anything else to say about Dooku?
No, just seems to be a fairly consistent character. Nice art. He's just in pretty deep contemplation here, and I think probably ready to move on to the next card.
Yeah, needless to say, he's a villain card, but that doesn't matter in the draft format. You're allowed to play with villains and heroes on the same team in that format.
Yeah, which I think is good for the format. You're gonna get screwed otherwise in some situation. Yeah, you're always gonna be able to at least assemble a team of characters. So let's move on to the next card here. And well, we just saw Count Dooku. So how would he be going into battle without this? I don't think he would. There's his lightsaber.
It's a blue card. Obviously, you're not going to put this in your deck if you're not taking Count Dooku. Well, I shouldn't say that. You're not going to put this in your deck if you're not taking a blue character, because you're not going to be able to play it.
Yeah.
But you're probably not putting it in your deck if you don't have Count Dooku, because usually the unique enhancements in this game refer to doing some effect off the unit that they relate to.
Yeah, so unless it's such a good card that it warrants playing it without that character, which I believe there to be some cases of, typically you're going to want to maximize that synergy. And let's see what the lightsaber does first here. So it has the text: after you play this upgrade, if it is on a Sith, you may deal 1 damage to a character that has no shields, or if it is Count Dooku, you may force an opponent to discard a card from their hand.
Yeah, obviously Count Dooku's effect is more potent.
Yeah, and we're just instantly seeing a lot of synergy where with Count Dooku's power action himself draws his lightsaber. Now you're actually discarding 2 cards from their hand.
Yeah, it's a nice control effect going on. negating their cards, negating their ability to modify their die by discarding a card.
Yeah, especially I'm thinking like you have the battlefield even, you're going first, and like if you pull some like upgrades from their hand, if you can like eliminate the cards they're gonna play that are gonna add dice early before they even have an opportunity to play them down, I think it's giving you that option even a bit later in a turn, when they've got some events they're holding, tricks. It's just like you said, it's just a really good control element.
Yeah, it is costed at 2. Dice size, we've got 1 melee damage, 2 melee damage, a modifier for plus 2 melee damage, and then we've got discard 1 card, and then a blank side. So effectively identical icons going on here to Dooku, except you're losing the resource and you're losing the focus.
Yeah, so yeah, like you said, there's a heavy focus on the melee damage and the discarding. So, I mean, as there should be, a lot of synergy between Dooku and his lightsaber, and I personally, I'm a fan of the lightsaber, at least from what I've seen so far. Without using it, I think it seems to be a fairly strong card.
Yeah, needless to say, another villain card.
All right, on to the next one. And so we've seen a couple blue cards so far. Let's get into a leader card here. Is up next, and that is a sniper team. And
yeah, command. Here's the die. It's a 2-cost card. It's got the support and trooper traits, and we've got a power action. Discard a card from your hand to turn this die to the side that has a value 1 higher than the value showing on this die.
And then looking at the dice symbols, that's quite interesting. As they sequentially go up, if you are using your power action, as long as you haven't rolled a blank or the 4, you're always going to have that opportunity to buff your damage output by 1.
Yeah, now you may not do that if you don't have 2 resources available or you don't have 1 resource available, but you do have the option. I think it should also be noted that you can't increase the value of a blank.
Yeah, no, the blank is set at 0 there. And yeah.
So you have a 20% chance of getting nothing.
Yeah. Or no, with 33.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah. This one I'm not sure. 2 resources, 4 damage is great, but 2 resources is a pretty hefty cost.
I'm gonna say I don't like this card because you're paying 2, which is effectively a whole turn. Now,
provided you haven't gotten any other resources, but that's still your resources, guaranteed resources for the turn.
Now you have it in play, and to get meaningful value out of it, which would be the 3 or the 4, you're now using either half of another turn of guaranteed resources or a full turn. On top of that, 1/3 chance you get nothing.
Yeah, interesting card. It's a sniper team, and not really sure about their accuracy here, given 33% of the time, like you said, that's just going to be a whiff.
Yeah, this should say mortar team or something. Worth noting, this is a villain card.
Yeah, you got the recon stormtroopers depicted there.
So they're not clone troopers, they are stormtroopers.
Yep.
It's hard to tell because they do have the kind of more unique.
Yeah, they got the scout trooper armor there. Yeah, which some of the troopers on Kashyyyk had that, the clones. But yeah, any more thoughts on that, or I think we pretty well covered everything?
No, I think this is the kind of card that you could use and realize it's good, but initial impression is that this is not great.
Yeah, I totally agree with that assessment. So next up is a plot, which is great. You get a plot out of this draft set because based on the characters you get, you might not have that optimal like 30 cost worth of characters when you're assembling your team. So I think it's nice. There's at least 1 plot so far. We may see more.
Astrogation. It is a plot. Costs 2, so it better be good. After you play an upgrade, you may exhaust this plot and spot a blue character who you are guaranteed to get. You have Dooku. To discard the top card of a deck.
Okay, so kind of a real, I mean, not even kind of, just like a mill deck card here.
I think this is a better card in the regular format of the game with deck building from a full collection.
Yeah, where you can really fully commit to that mill synergy, which you might not necessarily be able to do out of just drafting your cards with the hands you get.
Obviously, you have Dooku, but I don't know if you're going to consistently be building a good mill deck from drafting.
Yeah, I think that's a quite a fair point. I think it does become stronger in the standard, infinite, or trilogy formats there. But it's nice you have the option at least. I think it's that you have Dooku. You're guaranteed to in these formats to be able to play with Dooku as lightsaber and this. So like you have that option available to you. Maybe you're seeing a lot of mill cards as the hands are going around, and it's something you can commit to. But like you said, I think a little better in those other formats.
The other thing worth noting is that if you're drafting and you draft this, there's no guarantee that the mill cards are available the next time it comes back to you.
Or this is in the
sorry,
set,
you're
so,
correct.
Yeah.
So that's not a valid point. All right, we've got that.
Okay, and then up next is Knighthood, and I believe that's Kanan Jarrus there from Rebels.
So this is a card that also comes in the Obi-Wan starter set.
Is it? I think
it is. This card has.
I think it was just because we played with some of these cards. I think was why it popped up in one of our games.
Oh, you're correct.
Yeah,
you're correct. I do recognize this card.
Yeah, I remember you used it. Yeah, I think. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
This is a really good card. It's a 0-cost card, which is already great to see because it means you can do some effect and maintain your resources.
I am finding I like 0-cost cards a lot in this game.
You can only play it on a blue character, but you have a blue character available to draft, so that's not a problem. Attached character gains the Jedi trait. I haven't seen a lot of cards that's super relevant for, but the next part is the good part. After you play this upgrade, you may give a character 1 shield. And shields are always good.
Yeah, it's 0. You're guaranteed getting a shield, and if you have a bit of a bigger collection of cards, again, maybe not necessarily in the draft format. Actually, no, I take that back. This could be useful in the draft format if you maybe draw cards that can only go on a Jedi, but you don't necessarily have the Jedi character. So actually, I think it's giving you some nice versatility in that way.
Yes. We didn't mention it. Both hero cards here.
Yeah, good point. So, yeah, not relevant for the draft and sealed formats, but if you are using these cards in standard, that's definitely important. Yeah, and now on to the next one. We have another command card, and this is a character. So that is Fen Rao, Mandalorian Protector.
Here's the die. Character, pilot, trooper. He's got a power action. Play a red card from your hand, paying its cost. Then deal 1 indirect damage to an opponent. He is a hero. 11 and 13. Again, so he's costed the same as Dooku.
And he has the same health as Dooku. So we're seeing some consistency there.
It's actually worth noting that these two characters have identical die, except you're replacing the melee damage with ranged damage, and you're replacing the card discard with a shield.
Which he's the Mandalorian Protector. Definitely fits the theme of what Fen Rao is doing.
And so they're filling the same role. It's just a question of if you want a deck that goes up with shielding or if you want a deck that goes with milling.
Yeah, and I like that you have both of those options guaranteed with your starter set. And even their power action, kind of similar in the sense that it's that type of action economy where you're taking your power action, both of them you're playing a card, but then you're also getting something else out of that.
Yeah, in general I would say discarding a card is a little bit better than dealing 1 damage in this game. But dealing 1 damage is not to be laughed at.
Yeah, no, definitely not to snub your nose at. And again, actually, just building on the similarities we were talking about, each of them with 3 traits and fairly relevant traits. From what I've seen so far, Dooku's perhaps a little bit more, but I believe there is a fair amount of pilot synergy as well.
There's usually trooper synergies in these kind of games, so yeah, good character there. It was a hero card.
Yeah.
Should be noted. So you've got 1 hero, 1 villain thus far.
Yeah, and now this is another command card here, and it is the Test of Character.
It's an event, 1 cost. Choose 2 dice that share a subtype, yours and or opponent's. Then turn one of those dice to any side and re-roll the other one.
Okay. So, yeah, subtype being melee damage, ranged damage, focus, discard, resource, just all those dice symbols. This is an interesting card.
It's a conditional card. I'm not immediately blown away by it. I think most of the time it will be a useful card. There will be situations where it's not. If your opponent, for instance, is playing a deck that completely prioritizes melee damage and you just don't have that kind of character.
Yeah, maybe you're playing like Fenral, like some other troopers or something, and you just only have range. Suddenly you're not sharing. Maybe you're going to get the focus or something, but it's not really as likely.
That said, you can do both of your own die. So,
yeah, that's a good point.
That does make it a little bit better. I think it's a stronger card if you can negate a good roll that your opponent has made. But if you're manipulating 2 of your die for 1 cost, that's not bad.
No, and I mean, like, yeah, you're turning one of those dice to any side, so that's immediately, like, again, nothing really to laugh at. I think that's anytime there's a kind of effect where you're picking the side of your dice, it's something to take note of.
It's worth noting you would be able to do that just by discarding the card. So effectively what you're doing is paying 1 to also have the ability to re-roll another dice.
Yes. So you're...
Or sorry, no. Because you discard a card to re-roll a dice. So you're paying 1 to turn a dice to a side you want it to be at.
Yeah, so...
Which is good. I think you might prefer to use the resources to just play some kind of support and add to your dice pool.
Yeah. I think this is definitely a usable card. Just a kind of generically good card, but whether it makes it into your deck remains to be seen. Again, once we use it more, maybe this is something that we're undervaluing a little bit, but perhaps it isn't all that great.
It's a neutral card, so it can go anywhere.
All right, and now we have another plot, and this time it's a command plot. So now we get a command one.
Yeah, they're obviously making sure everything gets a plot if you want it for that color. Grand design, it is a plot. It also costs 2. After you play a support, you may exhaust this plot and spot a red character to draw a card.
Okay, so this again, as the art is signaling here, I think really good in a vehicle deck, as you're really trying to play out a lot of supports, and now you've got a bit of a card draw engine going here. It's doing something quite different than the astrogation. It's costed the same and just really filling a different type of deck, I think.
Well, actually, it's an identical plot. It's just helping you rather than negating your opponent.
Actually, yeah.
This is upgrade. This is support. I would say the support is a little bit better. Obviously, there's decks that are going to be upgrade heavy, but I think when you add, I think I would rather see supports than upgrades coming into play if you have good supports. Because a lot of the upgrades can just leave play if the hero they are on gets killed.
Which is why redeploy is such a huge keyword in this game. Upgrades with redeploy are really strong because you know that it's going to be in play for the remainder of the game.
Yeah. I think this is a good plot for 2. Whether it's making it into a deck is a different question. Because 2 is a high cost, and that might mean you're taking a character that's a little less good. But, I mean, in any card game, card draw is good. And especially in a game like this where your cards can be used to manipulate dice.
Yeah, every card serving that dual purpose, depending on which one you want to use it for. Yeah, there's grand design. And also, yeah, just one more thing about those plots, like we mentioned earlier, I think like in the draft format, it could just be a nice way to round out your 30 points worth of starting setup basically with your characters. So if you have 2 really good ones you're happy with and you're sitting at like 28, then like nice way to round that out. Just depending on the numbers you get, could be something that you end up using, I think.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So now we have a rogue card. So we got the force character, the command character. Now we get a rogue character here as well. So rounding that out, and this is the Outer Rim Outlaw.
It's got character, scavenger, and scoundrel traits, and it's got a power action. Play a yellow card from your hand, paying its cost. Then reroll an opponent's die, or reroll up to 3 of your die.
The Outer Rim is a lawless place. Jenica Pierce.
I think it's a decent power action if you're rerolling one of your opponent's die. I think it's a great power action if you're rerolling 3 of your own. Obviously, there's going to be turns where you rolled well, but I think this wants to go in a deck where you have a lot of die going, be that through supports or upgrades.
Yeah, I think it's a really good luck mitigation card here. Like if you're rolling well, then you still have at least the option of using it on an opponent's dice. And otherwise, like, yeah, maybe it's a really crucial moment and you whiff your dice, and this is giving you a potential route out of that.
It's 10 cost, so 1 less than Dooku and Fenrir. There's no elite version, and it's not a unique character.
Yeah, only the unique characters having the elite version, so this being a non-unique, just the 10 cost there. But yeah, its icons definitely going a bit of a different route from Dooku and Fenrir, as you do have one that you're paying for, and she kind of does it across the board. She's an outlaw. She uses lots of different means, so she has 2 range damage, 2 melee damage for a resource though, 2 indirect damage, 1 disrupt, which is removing one of your opponent's resources, and then 1 resource. So she's an outlaw, she's dealing in resources, and her damage is kind of across the board. She'll go with whatever means necessary. And then obviously that 6 side being a blank.
Not blown away by the die. The power action is good.
Yeah, and her health is an 8, so 1 less than Dooku and Fenrir, but she is coming in at 1 less cost, but still that 1 less health is something to keep in mind for sure. And yeah.
It is a neutral card. That's worth noting.
Yeah, definitely for standard play.
So just you can have heroes and villains on the same team, but you do have if you're looking for standard play, you do have 2 options for both a villain or a hero deck in terms of characters from this set.
So that is adding a lot to standard play. If you're based on the cards you have, you want to be able to play hero or villain decks, you can kind of fill that into whatever slot you need. And sitting at the 10 point range is nice if you have a big character that's around 18 to 20. It can round that out. Maybe three mid-range characters. It could fill that role as well. I think it's a fairly versatile card. And so now we have a downgrade. Intel traded, and this is shadowed, and we got a picture of Garindin on it.
0 cost card. After attached character uses its action, including power action, you may deal 1 indirect damage to its controller. I think that's a really good card. I mean, you're going to want to use the power action on a character, especially if you're coming up against someone who's chosen an expensive character. They've really paid a lot of that cost for the power action.
Yeah, like an expensive character, it's gonna have a good dice, but like it's gonna have to be bringing something significant to the table through its ability, like you said. So this is definitely the type of card you will really need to be seeing early in the game though, because
Yes.
you're not getting much value out of this card if you're drawing it towards the end of the game. But I mean, Destiny, obviously it is, you do have just the option of discarding it to reroll, and also like, I mean, something of note in this draft set, you're not necessarily going to do it, but you could have that 20 card deck. It is 20 to 30, and even if it's 30, that's a bit of a smaller deck than a lot of other games that we've seen. So the odds of getting it are not too bad.
I would have paid 1 for this card.
Yeah, this is a really really good card. I like it a lot at a zero cost. You're playing it, if that's in your starting hand, like that's incredible.
And it's a neutral card, so it's bringing a lot to every format.
Yeah, I really like that card. Both of us giving it a thumbs up. And now, yeah, like you mentioned earlier, all the colors getting a 2-cost plot here. So the rogues are not going to be left out. They're coming in here with the Perilous
Escapade.
Yeah.
2 cost, so they're all 2 cost. After you play a downgrade, you may exhaust this plot and spot a yellow character to deal 1 indirect damage to an opponent. This might be just our card pool. I haven't seen a ton of downgrade cards. So I think it has less utility than both other plots. But with a bigger card pool, I'm sure there are plenty of downgrade cards in the game. So if you're playing a deck that's about negating your opponent, I think it's a good plot.
Yeah, I know a lot of the bounty hunters that came out in the sort of in the latter half of the game were really building off of downgrades. So it's like all the bounty cards are downgrades, and it's like you put a bounty on a character when you kill them, when you kill that character, you get something, like you're getting these extra effects for putting these bounties on. So maybe really getting a kind of bounty hunter deck. Yeah, our card pool, we don't really have much of that, but again, this especially being a draft starter, maybe you're seeing a lot of downgrades in those hands. Those end up being some of the cards you're taking. Now you got a nice plot to really solidify that core of your deck.
Also worth noting, every yellow card was a neutral card.
Yeah, that's definitely important to note. And you know what? That theme is not going anywhere here, because we got another yellow neutral.
The hired muscle costs 1. And very thematically, if you want the hired muscle to do anything, you're gonna have to pay.
Yeah, no, they're not working for free. Like, not a chance. Look at those guys. So
the first thing that's striking here is there is no ability to roll a blank on this dice,
which is rare in this game. I'm actually not even out of the cards that we have. I don't even know if I have.
I haven't seen that. The second thing that's immediately worth noting is there is no number on this dice that is lower than a 2.
And the third thing, well, actually, no, you already noted it, is that you are paying no matter what. No matter what you roll, you're spending a resource for that.
So very diverse icons here, completely different. We've got a 2 ranged, a 3 melee, a 3 indirect damage, a removal of 3 resources. Now that's either going to be actually a whiff, and you are paying 1 to do it, or if the person's been stocking up their resources, that's going to be great.
Yeah.
Although presumably if they see this on the table, they're not going to be playing like that. You've got a 2 discard and a 2 shield. So every side of this die is a great effect, I would say.
Yeah, and like you said, as you mentioned, even if they're not going to be playing that, then the card is forcing them to play in a bit of a different way, which is not a bad thing. And yeah, just a very interesting die here. I'm not the biggest fan of the 2-for-1, but like the indirect and the 2/3 damage sides there, very relevant. And yeah, it's an interesting card.
I think with this card, you just got to be cognizant that you have it in your deck and you can't be putting a lot of 2 or 3 cost cards in there, because you've got to know that if this goes in play, you're using half your resources on its die, because otherwise you spent 1 and put a card in play for no reason.
And there are characters which do have like more resource sides on them. So like you could really push like, you know what, I'm gonna have this character, I'm gonna be generating some more resources. I know Duchess Satine Kryze was doing that a little bit. She had 2 resource sides. I've seen the Watto card has I think 2 as well. So you have some options for gaining resources. And or cards that are just making other cards cheaper, like the Palpatine, where you're playing an event at a discounted cost. You can kind of build up your resource base. So
I think it's a good card. I don't know if it's a card I would take, because I personally prefer die that are not conditional on having resources available to be useful.
Yeah, same with me. I'm a little bit skeptical on that, but again, I think it's a good card, and I think it's in a draft format, that's easily a card I could see finding its way into your deck.
Oh, definitely. If you play around the fact you're paying to use it, it's a good card.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we've seen a character from each of the 3 factions, and we're getting a completely gray neutral one here, and that is the Claudite Shapeshifter, just like Zam Wesell in Attack of the Clones. So this is a 6 health card. It costs 6 points as well. And again, not a unique character. It's fixed at 6. You're not going to be using an elite version of this. And the text reads, after you activate this character, you may choose a character subtype. Until the end of this round, this character gains the chosen subtype. And then the Claudite Shapeshifter's dice is 1 indirect damage, 2 indirect damage, 1 disrupt, 1 resource, and 2 blank sides.
I don't know about this card.
I see what it's doing, being in this draft set, is that
I was about to say that.
Yeah.
It's helping you take cards you would not have otherwise been able to take if you drafted a card that it's a good card, but you don't have the correct subtype to play it. It's helping you.
Like something attached to a Jedi, attached to a trooper or something. It's giving you flexibility. I'll say I'm a big fan of this card being in this set.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of actually building a deck and putting this card in it. The die is very underwhelming. The health is very underwhelming. It's a gray card, so it's not helping you play any other cards.
Yeah, that's a good point.
The cost of 6 is a little high, I think.
You are getting 6 health out of it, and
I would rather have the commando droids. I thought their die was at least a little more relevant.
The 2 blanks here is rough, but I am a big fan of this card being here, because I think...
Yeah, it has a purpose.
Yeah.
It has a purpose being in the draft set.
Yeah, exactly. And we've seen some of those, a few of those cards so far, that it's like the knighthood, again, adding that Jedi subtype. It's cards letting you play other cards, letting you work with what you have.
Yeah, the knighthood is a 0 cost card that also gives you a shield, so it's just a much better card.
Yeah, but again, only the Jedi. Little more flexibility here. So on to the next one. This is an interesting card. It's got a lot of text on it, and it's a chance encounter.
It's an event. Costs 1. Choose and do 1. Spot a leader to turn a die to any side. Spot a scoundrel to reroll up to 3 die. Spot a trooper to remove a die showing a value of 1 or less. I will say I don't think the trooper one is that great.
I actually disagree there, because with how much ability there is to reroll dice here, even removing a dice that is not currently that relevant of a dice is significant. With so many options to reroll or alter your dice in some way, you're actually removing it from the pool.
Is 1 or less applicable to blanks though? Because a blank is not a numeric value.
Yeah, no, blanks are listed as a 0. So you could remove a blank.
If blanks are listed as a 0, then is it not the fact that you can upgrade the sniper team's 2 blanks to a 1?
I don't have the game rules with me, but that is something that we'll have to look into. You wouldn't be able to, because it doesn't have any symbol on it. So what are you upgrading?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought the sniper team was going to become a bit better, but no.
Unfortunately not.
If you can remove blanks or 1s, that is actually going to remove a decent amount. So that's an alright ability. I think the other 2 are stronger.
Yeah, I'll just check them out again. The leader to turn a die to any side.
I think the scoundrel is the best ability. Because it doesn't specify reroll 3 of your own die.
I think that can only be your own, because I think the ones that are your opponents specify that it can be your opponents. So I believe that is only your own.
Okay.
But it's also interesting that you get Dooku, who's a leader, Fen Rao, who's a trooper, and you have the Outer Rim Outlaw, which is a scoundrel. So you for sure are going to be able to do one of those things.
Yeah, I think this is a card you're always going to take in draft play. I think it's a card that'll be tempting to take in other formats. That said, it does cost 1. So you've just got to weigh the opportunity cost. I mean, you could just discard it to reroll a die. Here you're losing the card and paying 1 to turn it to any side.
Yeah. So if you have a dice where there's a specific side you really need to hit, there's a really powerful side. But no, that's a good point about the opportunity cost. Like, you're discarding your card to re-roll, so it's just weighing whether it's worth paying 1 and losing the card to turn it to any side. Removing one of their dice could be.
This card is saving you from a catastrophically bad roll if you have a scoundrel.
I'm now not sure if that's re-roll if that could be. No, I think it's your own dice. It's potentially your. No, that would be your own dice. Yeah.
Again, it's a neutral card, so it's versatile. It's definitely a versatile card. I think this is the kind of card that'll be on the bubble of making it into a deck outside of draft.
Yeah, like you said, I think in draft this is gonna see a lot of play.
Yeah, it's just gonna keep your dice rolls kind of consistent.
Yep. That's a nice card there. And we've got another gray, just neutral card here, and that's a flank. So also a 1-cost event.
Play only if you have more ready characters than an opponent. Remove 1 of that opponent's dice. Neutral card. Now, you can play in such a way that this card works in any deck, but I think this goes better in a deck where you're taking a lot of supports.
More ready
characters, you're right.
So a bit of a wider character list. Maybe 4 character list, absolutely. Even 3, if you're 3 and you're going up against someone with 2, I think this card instantly is very playable.
If the other person is the first player and you just pass until they roll one of their dice, but they might not roll their best character first. I don't know about this card. I think it's if you take 4 heroes, yeah, you're putting that in, but if you're not, I don't know.
Yeah, at 3, I feel like they're at 3 characters. I feel like it's quite playable because even if they have 3, if you have the battlefield you would want them to be going first, but you do have the pass options. Or maybe you're just taking your actions and not activating characters necessarily. You're playing down, like you said, if you have supports or upgrades or something.
Yeah, but if you have 3 characters, is this in the top 30 cards you can put in your deck? I don't know if it is. You're paying 1 to do it as well.
Yeah.
It's a conditional card. You're paying 1 to do it, and you're only removing 1 dice.
But it's not that conditional if your list is tailored to that. The conditional element of it loses a bit of that, but yeah, that's an interesting card. And we actually get 1 more plot. So we have a plot for each color, and now we get a neutral plot, which is immediately quite interesting because in standard play this can go with anything. And it's aptly named after the box. It's Allies of Necessity.
-2 cost. Include only if 2 or more characters on your team share a color. After setup, discard a card from your hand and lose 2 resources.
The card you're discarding is of your choice, so you're going to discard the worst one of your 5 starting cards, but the part that jumps out to me is losing 2 resources, which is rough.
That's your turn.
Yeah.
That's your turn. Playing down a support or an upgrade on the first turn has a huge effect on the game.
Because you're going to have that dice on every subsequent turn. So the amount of value you get from a dice played on the first turn, it's just fairly exponential.
I think this is a bad card. I think the only situation this card gets taken is if you have some sort of 2 amazing characters and you have figured it out so that they're 2 over your maximum spend.
I think this is the type of card that someone with a big collection, like their Destiny collection is big, they have a ton of characters, they're very familiar with the game, there's some kind of combination between characters that they're trying to pair together, and they can tailor a deck where there's lots of resource cards, maybe ways of mitigating that. But yeah, I don't know. I think the consistency is just not going to be there in standard play. It's going to be hard to pull a deck with this off. But in draft play, on the other hand, you based on the characters you draft, this might let you use your good characters you've drafted. Like, I think there is much more utility there. In draft play, your opponent's decks are not going to be quite as strong either, so there's less of a loss on the resources if you're able to take 2 really good characters.
Yeah, my observations of Destiny thus far have been that it's a game where the value of turns decreases as the game goes on. Your first turn is the most important turn in the game. Just insofar as if you're able to add to your dice pool on the first turn, its value is just, it's not exponentially, but it's almost exponentially higher than adding on later turns. Because it's bringing, if you have a strong first turn and your opponent doesn't, it more times than not you're going to be able to win the game.
Yeah, so I guess the argument is, if this lets you take 2 elite characters, that's 4 dice. If that's worth starting with 4 dice, because maybe you're starting with 3 dice, you're paying 2 resources to add 1, and you're at 4 anyway. So if it's letting you do that, and you're still, I think if I'm using this card, I definitely want to be starting with 4 dice.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, yeah, then you pay 2 resources. You're probably going to typically play 2 resources for a fairly good dice that you're adding to one of your characters.
Yeah, the chintzy supports are costed at 1. So if you're paying 2 for a support and you've examined the card pool and you've not picked something stupid, you should be getting a lot of value out of that dice.
Yeah, so then it begs the question of whether 2 elite characters starting with 4 is more valuable than that. I don't think that it is, but I don't think there's a huge separation there. If you're still if you're using this, you need to be starting with a lot of dice. on your characters, because you're not going to be adding to that on the first turn probably, unless maybe one cost support. Maybe you have characters with resources that you're then gaining some and playing that, but that, I don't know, you're kind of relying on certain roles then maybe.
It's a fair point, but it makes it a terrible card in draft play if that's the case.
Yeah, because unless you have some ludicrous pulls from your, well, sealed play, unless you have ludicrous pulls from your packs. Draft play, unless a really good character has,
unless
is in
you
each of
crack
your
a
6.
pack.
Yeah, because you have the first pick out of your 3 packs each time. But I mean, the odds of that.
I think this is a really bad card in draft play.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
I don't think you're drafting that high. I'll say that.
No, and again, it's a little like the Claudite Shapeshifter. I think it's just making sure you're not going to get screwed over by a draft, basically.
Yep.
Yeah. So now we got the LR57 combat droid, and this is a support which costs 3. So immediately I'm thinking this is going to have to be doing a lot coming in at that cost.
Support droid.
Which is droid trait already relevant from the cards we've seen with Grievous.
And it is a neutral card, so you can play it with him.
Yep.
After you play this support, place 1 resource on it.
Okay.
Special. Place 1 resource on this support. Then deal damage to a character equal to the number of resources on this support.
And it has 2 special sides on its dice.
I don't know. The question, best case scenario, you get this into play turn 2. No, best case scenario.
Well, turn 1. Yeah.
Best case scenario, you get really lucky and get it into play on turn 1.
I mean, there's cards that you do just gain resources from. Like, there's the Truce, and like those. There's cards where you can just gain a resource. Like the Truce also gives your opponent one, but if you have 3 cost card in your hand, that might give you more benefit.
So the specials basically, once you put it in play, you put a resource. So the specials both start with value of 1. This special, you're paying 1 to do it. So if you roll that on turn 1, you're probably just not going to be able to do it.
And the other sides of the dice are not overwhelming. I'll say that much.
No. I mean, what you need is some kind of card that has a ton of focus on its die, and then your whole gameplay just revolves around modifying this dice.
Actually, that wasn't something I thought of, but that's a good point. Like, this is the type of card where if your deck is completely built towards this card, I think that this card could do some crazy things, but
you need to be planning ahead if you're taking this card, because if you're not putting a ton of focus in your deck and having some way to ensure that you get this card early in the game, I think it's a really bad card for 3 cost. I think if you get this card early in the game and you're able to consistently hit the special, and especially the special that you don't have to pay for, I think it's the kind of card that can win you a game.
yeah.
Like if you get up to 5 or something,
Even at 4 or 5, that's a huge amount of damage. But then interesting, it's coming in the draft set where you're not gonna really be able to build a really well-oiled machine tailored of a deck towards doing one specific thing.
yeah, I don't know if this is a card you're drafting.
My initial impression is no.
Well, sorry, I shouldn't say that. You're guaranteed this. I don't know if this is a card you're putting in your deck after you've drafted.
Yeah.
I think it's a better card in the other formats of the game.
Well, you're not necessarily guaranteed it, depending on how many players you're playing draft with. The final card in the hand that goes around.
It's in the draft starter set.
Oh, right, yeah. I'm thinking of cracking packs. Yeah, no, you're right.
I think this is a card that got put in to encourage people who aren't interested in draft format to buy the draft starter.
Yes. I think that's a really good assessment of that card. So we're nearing the end of the pile here. This is the last card that isn't one of the locations, one of the battlefields, sorry, I should say. And that's the Electro Sword.
And it is another 3 cost. It is an upgrade instead of a support. It's upgrade weapon. It has redeploy. As honestly you would hope it would.
At 3, yeah,
cost.
that better.
Damage dealt by this die is unblockable. Okay, that seems good, but then you look at the die. There's 2 blanks. There's another side that's not damage. It's a card discard.
The card discard is a bit of a strange thing to see on this card, yeah.
So you have a 50% chance of having your damage be unblockable. Then you have a 1, 2, and a 3. I mean, I don't think you really care if your 1 damage is blocked or not.
Unless
It's nice if it's not, but
maybe in some rare instance they have a character with 3 shields but you're only 1 damage away and then you just kill them. But like that's such a niche kind of
so
situation.
you're paying 3 resources to have a die where only 2 of 6 sides are relevant to the ability on it.
One of
which you have to pay more for. I don't like this card.
And it's already costed a 3.
I'm just gonna say this is a bad card.
I mean, I honestly I don't disagree with you on that. No, this is a bad card.
The only side of the die you want coming up is the 2 melee damage. And you've paid 3 for it. There's upgrades that cost 2 that are way better.
And the other thing is,
I mean, Dooku's lightsaber costs 2 and it's a better card.
Significantly better. And like yeah, the other thing is, even if they have like say 2, 3 shields on a character, unless that 2 unblockable damage is what's killing the character,
it's actually not doing anything, it's just taking the shields off, which they can just put back on if they have the right cards.
No, if it's unblockable, one wouldn't take the shields off.
Sorry,
the damage would go through, but they would leave the shields on, but then they can shield future damage. So unless your deck is made up of unblockable damage or the character's about to die, then it's probably not doing as much as you would like it to.
And the 2 blanks is just terrible.
Yeah. If you see 2 blanks on a card, the other side's better be really good.
Or it better not cost 3. Better cost
that's true.
1.
I mean,
the knife that comes in the starter sets is I think the die is
punch dagger, yeah.
It's better. Like it also has 2 blanks, but I think it's like close to being as good.
This is a little better, I think, but like the other one costs 2 less, and it has different symbols. I think it has like a resource disrupt, which you
actually might be better.
Argue depending on the situation, but no, I agree. This is a bad card.
I mean, even in draft format where you have a card pool of 50 cards, I don't think this is a card that's ever going in play unless something crazy happens.
Yeah, something I'm not sure if we mentioned it earlier is that you can swap out cards from the 50 you've gotten from the format between games, but I don't see this being a card that's being swapped in, to be honest.
I mean, if you watch someone else play and you see that their whole deck is based on shields, but it's still not really helping you because it's only 1 card.
Yeah, it's kind of only like, I think you would need all your damage to be unblockable for it to be really relevant, unless their characters are almost dead, but they're probably not if they've been shielding a lot. Maybe no. Maybe they are.
For this card to cost 3, I want it to say damage dealt by attached unit is unblockable.
Yeah, but that would be really good.
Make you consider taking it for 3.
Yes. I think it would become pretty good then, because then if you put it on a big elite character
and
you have
tossed some
3
upgrades on it, yeah.
But yeah, no, I think we're on the same page with this one.
Yeah, I don't want to see that card anymore.
Yeah, it's still on the table, but it's off to the side here, not on your side of the table.
Okay, we've got 2 battlefields. You have to take a battlefield. Really in any format of the game, draft format included.
So if you just don't wind up with a battlefield in the drafting or the sealed packs you have, you're going to be using one of these 2 battlefields. And the first one is Chalmun's Cantina on Tatooine.
Power action. Reroll a character die, yours or an opponent's. Then you may reroll another die that shares a subtype with that die.
That is very interesting. And so for those
there is a random element because you take the second dice after you've rerolled it.
Yeah,
So you've got to think about what dice you're rerolling and pick a dice where you have a high probability of getting something that you want to reroll on something else. But the probability of your opponent having that is kind of low. So I think you might have to reroll one of your own die first and then hope it works out well and then reroll the opponent die that you want to reroll.
I do think this is pretty good because being a power action, if you control the battlefield, you can use that power action. Like a lot of battlefields have like a claim ability, and this being an ability that you are triggering on your turn really incentivizes you to be in control of the. Well, I mean the claim when you're still getting it when you get the battlefield, but if you can maintain control of the battlefield and constantly trigger that power action.
My concern is that this is one of those cards that seems good, but once you play it, it actually isn't. Because my impression is that re-rolling 2 dice is really good. But then you realize that the re-roll of the second dice is conditional on what happens when you re-roll the first dice. And now there's a lot of chance involved in what's going on. I think it's interesting. I don't know if it's as good as it seems.
Having the power action, even if you don't get the second part, having the power action to re-roll a character die, yours or an opponent's, is already pretty strong. Though.
Yeah, I think it's a stronger card outside of draft format where you can build a deck where you just say, okay, every character has a ton of melee sides on their die.
Because if you are getting that second reroll, now it's like really packing a big punch. Yeah. Because I mean, to have the battlefield, that means to control the battlefield, that means you are consistently claiming before your opponent. So a smaller character list is with maybe more upgrades, less supports is something you're going to be trying to do. And if that's the case, this could be something really interesting.
Although here's the thing, it specifies reroll a character die.
Yeah, so if you got like 2 elite characters, that's 4.
Yeah.
1 elite character and 1 non, you still have 3. There's probably going to be 3. Thing is, otherwise,
yours
but it's
or
your opponents. Yeah. So if you roll really well, like you're gonna.
There's some conditions going on. I think it's good. I don't know how good. It's one that you need to see in play.
I do like this one. My initial impression of this is that I like it a lot. But yeah, we'll see how it actually plays.
All right, last card.
Last card of the Allies of Necessity draft set, and it's Weta Palace. So we're heading to Nal Hutta for this one, Homeworld of the Hutts.
And this looks good because it's got a claim effect and a power action.
Yeah, so there's a lot going on here. The claim reads, place 1 resource on this battlefield. So when you claim it, you're putting a resource.
Power action. Place 1 resource on this battlefield. Or take all resources from it.
This is very interesting.
This is a card that, again, you want to be playing a small character deck. Because if you are not confident you can claim this battlefield, you are helping your opponent on a future turn by taking a power action.
Potentially significantly.
Yeah.
Or by taking the power action and by the claim. Because there could be a reasonable... Well,
there's probably going to be 3 or 4 resources on there by the time it gets claimed.
I don't think you want to
You don't want to have it sit
build
there
it
and have
up
10.
too much. You don't want to build up too much because then they are just going to end their turn early and take all of them maybe. But, I mean, Destiny is a pretty fast-paced game. There's not actually that many turns. There's not as many as you might think, I think.
I
so.
think this is a card you don't want to be taking until you're good at Destiny. Because
It's the card, yeah.
This is a card that you better have a very good idea what you're doing if you're playing around with this, because it can really help you or it can really hurt you.
No, exactly. It's one of those cards that, like, it's really good for you, but it can stab you in the back. Like, it could be used against you. So I think that's a great assessment, that if you're not really confident in what you're doing in your gameplay, I'd maybe would veer to something a little safer till you're a little more confident with Destiny, but really interesting for someone who maybe really has a firm idea of what they're doing and what their deck's doing.
Yeah, so there you have it. 18 cards that are going to go into a deck, 2 battlefields, 9 dice. What's the retail value here that you're looking at to pick this up?
I believe I got this for about 16 to 20. I believe I could be wrong, but I think it's right within that range there.
Worth noting, that's Canadian dollars for. It's going to be less in US dollars, significantly so. Actually, probably about 30% less.
Yeah, American dollar. Actually, I think I may have seen it on American Amazon, maybe at 12. I think. Yeah, something around there. I think.
Yeah, you're paying under $1 per card, which is pretty decent in Destiny terms. You are getting some decent cards. I mean, Dooku, Fenrau, those are cards that are probably going to be costed over $1 if you're just looking to buy singles. Even some of the plot cards are pretty decent cards, I would say.
I do like the battlefields that come in this set as well.
Yeah, so there you have the card pool and our analysis of them. If you don't agree with something we said, if you do agree, feel free to share in the comments.
Yeah, let us know your impressions of these cards. Like Hal said, if you don't agree, we'd love to hear it, and if you do, just feel free to comment.
Well, thanks for watching this video. Hopefully it was useful to you.
Yeah, for anyone who is now interested in the draft and sealed formats, this is definitely a Destiny set to check out. So thank you guys for watching.
Until next time.